Logan, the third and final movie where Hugh Jackman plays the character Wolverine as a standalone main character as opposed to films where multiple X-Men appear as main protagonists. I initially had little to no interest in this movie, but my brother was going to go see it with a friend from school. Unfortunately, because of the horrific restrictions that high school, it's bad enough we do it to little kids, now we do it to teenagers who should be well above, well beyond the need for such restriction. On family time, play time, time with friends, time to enjoy life and have normal life experiences that schools now impose. His friend couldn't go. So he asked me if I wanted to come along, and I did. We went to go see the movie, and it's a long movie. I think it's almost 2.5 hours. After that, we went for a Subway dinner and talked quite a bit about it. This movie pisses me off. It clearly has a tone, a setting, that's very much about the American-Mexican border dispute. The wall, or the border, because it's all about trying to smuggle a young Latina girl across the border. They're frequently stating the goal of getting to or across the border, which we all know what that's really commenting on. Now, I'm not a big superhero comic book reader. I do like them, and I do like the X-Men. I know a little bit about them. I've seen the movies, I've seen a couple of cartoons, probably just enough so that if I'm in a group of people who are big fans of the stories, I would not be totally lost. But I've never followed the stories closely. I do know that there are many books coming out now with direct commentaries on the current political situations. Almost all of them anti-Trump, which is disgusting. It's okay to splash real-world ideas and political concepts here and there, or vaguely into fictional stories. But what we're getting now is the demonization of a person who is genuinely trying to restore some level of control to the American people with what happens within their country. That's why Trump got elected. He talked about the issues the way people who were being realists wanted them talked about. Right? It was not a racist thing. It was not a sexist thing. It was not any kind of phobic thing that people are still shouting at Trump and his supporters. It's gotten, well, no, it's way beyond having gotten out of hand. It's unforgivable. It's baseless. And that blatant a stance does not belong in comic books or superhero stories. And fans have been calling for this to stop. Even fans who are anti-Trump don't want it so blatantly in the stories. It's also a shame because the idea presented of the little girl's origin does fit in with the background of the world, the characters, some ideas in the previous movies, what goes on in that world with efforts by the government to control, restrict, and even extinguish mutants. The general idea does have potential to be a good story, but not when it's done like this. Although before I go on, I should say the little girl who plays Laura did a fantastic job with her character. Very good child actress. I found the movie to be... well, the story itself was not very enjoyable. And this isn't a comment about the violence. I have no problem with the violence. I'm a huge fan of the When They Cry series. I got no problem with the blood and gore, except that if you're going to make a movie that has children engaged in violence of this level, you'd better not ever complain about it in any other show or movie. Okay? It's just that, apart from the action, this movie had almost no fun in it. Not even like dark, post-apocalyptic world fun. There was no real interesting point or idea or philosophy brought up by the story or characters, other than the longing for love and a family, which has already been done in other X-Men movies, done better. And this movie was so frustrating, just unfun, that longing, that spark of wanting a family life never really shone through. At least I felt. And Logan, Wolverine, is an asshole throughout the entire movie. Up until the very, very last stretch. Maybe the last 10 minutes. And I've also seen that done with characters like this before. I didn't feel bad for him. And by that I don't mean the end, I mean at any point in the movie. The jerk personality was dragged on way too long. And I just felt no sympathy for the guy because I needed more to build up to his touching scene at the end. And that's almost exactly how I feel about Charles Xavier as well. Granted, he wasn't an asshole, but it was such a pathetic end and a pathetic portrayal of him. Not to mention his mind screaming made my head do that inside. Talk about a splitting headache. I also have no sympathy for drug hustlers or for medical professionals as a whole, but the latter is a personal thing because of my individual history. The former drug hustlers, look, President Trump and his supporters, myself being one of them, have been slandered and shamed beyond reason for wanting some measure of countering the drug cartels that have come up from Mexico and ravaged the southern states. Mexico itself has its own southern border against Central or Latin America, whichever you go with, immigrants. So there really is very little reason to dispute the right of the United States to defend its own borders. And drugs, even those meant to help, and I say meant in sarcastic quotes because even in America, American society now drugs its own children needlessly on a massive scale. Because the little boys just don't want to sit still for their government school brainwashing like the good little slaves of state that the left wants. Drugs of any and every kind just screw with your body and mind in so many ways. And in a lot of ways, this movie is showing us that. above anything else. This was a sad way for Hugh Jackman to bow out of the Wolverine role. Not in a well-done movie tragedy sad. It's just it's almost a brainwashed, pathetic, sickly sad.